There is, of course, a Canadian bank that has as one of its slogans, "You're richer than you think." Apparently, for the bank, this has been a very successful marketing campaign. You're richer than you think. After all, who among us wouldn't like to be just a little bit richer? Some of you have, like I do, a mortgage. And wouldn't it be nice to be able to pay it off just a little bit more quickly? Maybe your car needs some work, and you'd like to get a newer one. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to do that? Maybe you're saving up for an education, maybe your own studies or the studies of a child or a grandchild, and wouldn't it be nice to be able to have enough to put aside and to not have to worry about it anymore? Some of you are saving up for retirement, and gosh, wouldn't it be great to just have enough to not have that hanging over your head? Some of you are already retired, and you're not 100% sure if you have enough to maintain your current lifestyle to the end of your life, and wouldn't it take a load off to know that you were all set and you didn't have to worry about that? Wouldn't we all like to be just a little bit richer? No, we don't want to be incredibly rich. We don't want to live in a mansion and have a fleet full of beautiful, expensive cars. Well, maybe some of us would like that, but that's not really our goal. That's for greedy, selfish people. We would like to be just a little bit richer. And if we were just a little bit richer, then maybe one or two of those things that we worry about so much, we wouldn't have to worry about anymore. And imagine how great life could be if we didn't have to worry about those one or two things coming up on the horizon. You know, Jesus said something about this. He said, "Don't worry. Consider the birds," he said. They know nothing about agriculture. They do not prepare fields. They do not rent or own land. They do not sow seed. They do not water. They do not fertilize. They do not harvest. They do not process. They do not store in barns. And yet they have enough to eat because God feeds them. Consider the lilies and the flowers that grow in the wild. They have no textile industries. They know nothing of cashmere or silk or fine Egyptian mohair. And yet their beauty is perfect. They are exactly as God has designed them to be. Not even King Solomon, who in the time of Jesus had lived in the distant past and was known internationally for his wealth, not even Solomon was adorned as beautifully as the flowers that grow in the wild. And so do not worry about what you will eat or what you will wear. It is the nations who do not know about God who worry and stress over these things. Do not worry. God knows what you need, and God loves you. There was once a famous philosopher and theologian from Denmark named Kierkegaard. And this passage that we heard this morning was one of, if not the favorite places in the Bible for Kierkegaard. Because for him, this question of whether or not we will worry about our lives and worry about what we need, Or conversely, whether we will put our trust in God and we will not worry knowing that God loves us and cares for us, is the crux of our faith. It is where the rubber meets the road. I know a certain physician, and he likes to tell of a time when he was in university, and he happened to end up in the same residence hall as a bunch of students who were studying for the Anglican ministry. And this young medical student was struck by these want-to-be Anglican priests. He said all of the other students in the residence hall were concerned with their future careers and how much they might be able to earn. These ministry students, in contrast, did not seem to be worried about these things. In fact, they, like everybody else, knew that their earning potential was relatively limited. And yet, without this preoccupation, they were happy and joyful. And this experience of being around these fellow students had a profound impact on this physician. And he has remembered that influence and been shaped by it throughout the course of his life. And this physician is a very fine Christian man and tells this story with joy and realizing it was the grace of God. Jesus said to his disciples, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Jesus knew us so well, didn't he? He knew us perfectly. He knew that where we decide to invest our treasure, our resources, is where we will end up investing our thoughts and our feelings and our time and our energies. And so he invited us to invest our treasure wisely, that our hearts might be in the right places. There's a well-known American minister and theologian and writer who has published this thought: "I am thankful that the church has taught me the practice of regular and significant giving. See, this is the only way that we who are wealthy can gain some degree of freedom in this area of our lives. Only by giving money away will we have enough. It is a gospel paradox." Jesus taught his disciples, and all we who are his followers subsequently, give away in mercy. If you have to, sell what you have in order to be able to give away. In so doing, you will be storing up your treasure in heaven, where thieves cannot break in and steal it, nor moths nor rust destroy. Jesus taught us to give away. And Jesus taught us not only to give, but he taught us why we give. He taught us to give because we need to. It is our need to give, to put our hearts in the right place. Here in church, we give. Every Sunday morning, we take up an offering and we give. Some give in the offering plate, some give in other ways, but we give. We incorporate this, like churches everywhere, into our worship, not as an act of manipulation, but because we recognize that our giving is an act of the heart. It is an act of worship as we give our hearts over to God and decide that we will trust God with our lives. We give not because the church has a need to receive or because any other institution or group has a need to receive. We give because we need to give. We give because our hearts need to give. You know, it turns out that you can be richer than you think. No, you cannot be richer than you think by borrowing from a bank. Thank goodness we can sometimes do that, but it does not make us richer than we think. We become richer than we think by giving more than we think we are able. And as we give, our hearts become more and more open to the inexhaustible riches of God's grace. My favorite hymn concludes with these wonderful words: "Fading is the worldling's pleasure, all his boasted pomp and show. Solid joys and lasting treasure, none but Zion's children know." Thanks and praise be to God.